Thank you everyone for listening in today. Today I'll be taking you quickly through some of the top food technology trends to watch in 2018, including new sales channels, both offline and online, the growing investment landscape around food and beverage startups, as well as new emerging ingredients to watch in alternative proteins and sweeteners, and then finally, new technologies supporting supply chain transparency and food safety. To start, I think the question on a lot of our minds is, will the retail apocalypse that we've seen hit mid-range apparel and mall-focused retailers over the past few years hit the grocery industry? Over the past few years, as I'm sure many of us are well aware, a certain tier of mid-level mall retailer has been just decimated, but so far the grocery industry has been relatively sheltered. However, that's beginning to change. We're starting to see some small regional grocery chains tip toward bankruptcy, and this could serve as a troubling early signals for the broader vertical. As we can see in the timeline here, dozens of mid-range apparel, accessories, and electronics chains have declared bankruptcy since 2015, but grocery had been more insulated, though recently regional grocery chain Tops declared bankruptcy, and it's been rumored that Winn-Dixie, which owns the regional Bi-Lo grocery chain, may follow. Similar to what we've seen in apparel over the past few years, with sort of a hollowing out of the middle, where discounters and dollar stores are doing very well and luxury brands have also been somewhat protected. We may see a similar phenomenon in grocery where, again, dollar stores continue to grow, discount chains continue to expand, and premium chains are also safe, but mid-priced grocers may struggle more. And again, in another similar situation to what we saw in apparel a few years ago, the grocery industry may be overbuilt in America. And in 2017, we did see grocery chains pull back significantly in terms of new store openings. Store openings declined nearly 29%, while some major chains also shuttered their doors on hundreds of stores around the country. Even Lidl, the major European grocer that had planned to expand into the U.S., I think was making a lot of U.S. Grocery management teams a bit nervous, did end up sort of limiting their plans and lowering their ambitions, at least for the near term, in terms of U.S. expansion. The part of these challenges is glut in real estate. Another part is the shift online. As we can see here, the United States actually lags in terms of online grocery shopping as compared to other countries in Asia and Europe. But in some places, such as South Korea, grocery e-commerce is already a pretty significant share of overall grocery. And as this shift continues to take place in the U.S. and around the world, this will just put more and more pressure on brick and mortar grocery retailers. And when we talk about online, of course, we have to talk about Amazon, which is, of course, a major threat in pretty much every industry today. Amazon is growing its online grocery business, rolling out its own private label food products, which I'll discuss more in a minute, as well as setting up new delivery options, and now integrating Whole Foods into its strategy. Amazon last summer acquired Whole Foods for $13.7 billion, really sending shockwaves throughout the grocery industry. And not only does this instantly give Amazon a huge new offline grocery business, but also gives it outposts in suburban neighborhoods to support same-day delivery for online grocery orders, 1-hour delivery, and more, as well as a channel for collecting data on shoppers' offline habits, which it can then use for personalized marketing and more for its online grocery operations. And Whole Foods also gives Amazon another lever to pull in convincing people to sign up for Amazon Prime memberships, which again just locks shoppers more deeply into the overall Amazon ecosystem and can threaten grocery chains over the long term. One of the major ways we'll see grocery chains competing, and we expect to see more of this in 2018, is through private labels. So private labels, of course, are the store brands sold by that have for decades been sold by grocery stores. But in 2018, major chains such as Albertsons, Kroger, and Walmart have discussed that they plan to invest heavily in expanding their private label options to differentiate themselves from traditional competitors, as well as Amazon, give people a reason to keep coming back to their stores, and also give the grocery chains more control over the merchandise on their shelves and pricing. This is not just a strategy for brick and mortar retailers. We also see e-commerce platforms, marketplaces, beginning to roll out their own private labels. As I mentioned a minute ago, Amazon has been growing its private label grocery brands, such as Happy Belly. We also see e-commerce marketplace Boxed, which sells products from Pepsi, Kellogg's, other major brands, but they also have now their own private label called Prince and Spring, as does Thrive Market, an e-commerce platform that sells natural organic products from a whole range of brands, but also its own brand. So all this private label activity, what does this mean for national food brands like Procter & Gamble, Kellogg's, Pepsi? It means that the entities that they had always considered their biggest clients, the grocery stores that are actually placing these huge bulk orders for food products to the brands, are now becoming their competitors. So private label products are competing directly in many cases with national brand products. And as you might expect, this is leading to conflict. Just recently, we saw a very clear example that Campbell's Soup reported declining sales because they were unable to reach a sales agreement with Walmart. As Walmart continues to expand its own private label products and emphasize those products in stores, there was just less room for Campbell's on the shelves. They had disagreements over pricing, and this turned into a direct threat to Campbell's sales. And these challenges and conflicts may continue to arise throughout 2018. So looking forward, the next trend we'll watch is that as grocers move into brands turf by releasing their own private label products, food brands will in turn move into the realm of grocery stores by taking control over their own distribution channels. So hoping to no longer rely on Kroger, Walmart, etc. to sell their products, but to begin selling their products themselves through a variety of strategies. One of the biggest of these strategies is e-commerce. Many food brands have historically not sold their products online. Again, they've relied on grocery stores, but that's beginning to change. And for many of these traditional brands that have not built up their own e-commerce platforms, partnering with Amazon can seem like a ready-made solution. Some companies such as Tyson, Oreo, and Pepsi have already partnered with Amazon to sell their products through Amazon, gain immediate access to Amazon's infrastructure and customer base. But of course, this is risky. As we just saw, Amazon is building up its own private label business. Of course, since Amazon does control the sales platforms, it is more likely to recommend its own private label products versus other brands. So it's a little bit of a deal with the devil that brands are making here for short-term e-commerce access, but potentially leading to greater conflict down the line. There are other options. Some pretty well-funded tech companies like BigCommerce and Magento have partnered with food brands, among other types of brands, to help them quickly set up their own e-commerce platforms to sell products directly to consumers online without relying on stores, on the Walmart website, for example, or on Amazon. For food companies that want just to improve their capabilities in one aspect of e-commerce, or maybe smaller food brands that want to focus on one thing, we also see a very wide range of technology startups looking to help them out. Crate Joy, for example, helps food brands and other brands specifically with subscription sales plans. We see Lumi, which just raised funding recently, focused specifically on packaging that's optimized for e-commerce and also optimized to look good in Instagram Instagram photos when shoppers unbox those products at home, or even startups like Twiggle, which uses artificial intelligence to improve the search functionality on websites. So maybe food brands already have a website, but they want to return better search results for clients, for customers. Startups like Twiggle can help them out there. So we see these new technologies helping food companies move online, but what about technologies helping grocery shoppers? A lot of people feel that they're not so willing to buy groceries online. One of the major reasons for this is that people like to see the groceries, hold that fruit, hold those vegetables in their hands before they buy them in the store, and they feel this can't be replicated online. But we do see new technologies helping out there as well. Walmart, for example, we at CB Insights picked up a few of Walmart's patent applications for new strategies using artificial intelligence to help people feel more confident buying fresh produce online. One of these patents focused on sending drones to the agricultural fields where the produce is being grown to pick up on its quality, how ripe it is, other information, and then live stream that data directly into the store, onto the e-commerce website, so shoppers can see what products might be coming in soon, how fresh these products are, etc. We also see Walmart planning to let shoppers view the produce in real time before they buy it online. So, for example, you might not whereas today, you might just log on to Walmart's website and pick a number of apples or a number of pears. But with this new technology, you'd actually be able to pick out the specific apples using a visual live streaming setup. At CB Insights, we picked up these patents a few months ago, and just the other day, Walmart announced they'd be rolling some of these technologies out in a new program they're calling Eden. So we may even see some of these hitting our computers and mobile phones within the near future. While many food brands are looking to move online, we also see them experimenting with new offline sales channels that, again, give them more control over the means of distribution rather than leaving them reliant on grocery stores, which are struggling, or some of which are struggling, and others of which are increasingly becoming competitors. One way CPG brands are doing this is by investing in and acquiring startups, which already have direct-to-consumer distribution platforms set up. Just over the past few months, companies like Unilever, Nestle, Tyson have all invested in or acquired startups that give them direct access to consumers' homes. Nestle, for example, acquired Freshly, a startup that offers direct-to-consumer meal delivery, and Nestle specifically commented following the acquisition that they wanted access to Freshly's consumer data. These startups will help these food brands distribute to consumers outside of the influence of the store. So these brands don't have to worry about their competitors on store shelves or the growing presence of private label. They can also collect data more directly from the consumer about their habits, how often they choose to buy, what they're ordering, and that sort of thing, which is, of course, helpful. Beyond going directly into consumers' homes, startups are also helping brands distribute through a diverse range of offline channels, such as offices. I think a lot of us these days are spending more time at the office, and many employers, especially those catering to millennials, are putting more resources into healthy office snacks, more premium office snacks. So we see startups helping out there, such as Snack Nation and Joyride Coffee. We also see gyms increasingly being used as distribution channels. Kettlebell Kitchen is one example of a startup that sells personalized meal subscriptions, but delivers the meals to mainly CrossFit gyms, I believe, rather than to consumers' homes. So they work with the gyms there, sort of a win-win, theoretically. We also see distribution potentially through cars. Cargo, for example, puts kiosks inside Uber cars selling snacks, small snacks and drinks, as you can see in the photo. So this is this could be a great way to reach people on the go, and could also give us a glimpse to how self-driving cars could even potentially be used as a distribution channel for snacks and drinks in the future. What's perhaps a little more gimmicky, but still valuable to mention nonetheless, brands are also looking to reach the consumers directly through their own sort of pop-up experiences. So we see food brands like Kellogg's, which of course Kellogg's doesn't tend to operate its own stores. They tend to sell their products through grocery stores, but they just opened their own restaurant in New York. Mars Candy, again, tend to sell through grocery stores, hosted a spa on Valentine's Day in New York to attract consumers, get them kind of connecting more directly to the brand in a non-grocery store environment. And then more generally, just pop-up experiences like this summer camp offered by Lipton Tea in Manhattan last summer. Smart home technologies are also in their relatively early stages, but will offer food brands new ways to reach consumers directly, independent of the grocery store or even of websites. Voice is top of mind here for a lot of CPG brands as they look to potentially revamp their entire marketing and product discovery strategies to suit the voice interface rather than the visual interface. This is going to be a huge challenge moving forward. One example of how food companies could integrate with smart home technologies is here highlighted by Amazon, which just the other day spent $1.2 billion to acquire Ring, a smart home startup that focuses on connected cameras and home security. And so based on, of course, this brings Amazon a whole sort of immediate new business in terms of selling Ring products, but Amazon could also integrate it into its grocery delivery business by letting Ring users set up their Ring systems to let Amazon delivery people enter their home in a sort of safe, recorded way and deliver groceries directly into their kitchen, even unload grocery orders into their refrigerators while the homeowners are out. This could be a huge benefit for people looking for the convenience of food delivery. And also these smart home technologies open up huge new data streams for Amazon and perhaps ultimately food companies to monitor what people are doing on a day-to-day basis, what products they're actually eating, what activities they do before eating certain foods, and more. Smart home technologies could also make food purchasing even easier by taking any sort of personal interaction totally out of the equation. We've seen Amazon as well as Walmart file patents related to smart home devices that would sense when food products have been used up or are spoiled and automatically reorder those products for the customer. So this could really be somewhat of a holy grail for food brands. They wouldn't have to sit around and wait for the shopper to go to a website or go to a store to buy products. The food brand could just pick up data from smart home devices that the shopper may need a new product in the near future and ship that to them automatically with no input needed. This is a long way off, but overall what we're seeing through all these trends is that there's less and less focus on the storefront and more focus on a wider variety of sales channels. So with these shifts, it may be less necessary for food brands and grocery chains to spend money on real estate in expensive areas. We're already seeing models to support this change in the form of delivery-only grocery stores. Startups such as Common Sense Robotics and Dark Store are renting out small spaces in urban areas that stock grocery merchandise but don't allow in any shoppers. They're only there to fulfill same day or 1 hour delivery orders for consumers in that urban area. And these mini warehouses are fully automated. Once an online order comes in, robots just pack up the products and get it ready for shipping to the customer's door. So going forward, I think we'll see more of this with grocers, perhaps as more grocery chains close their doors or declare bankruptcy, and purchasing overall shifts more online, more of this real estate will be used not to serve consumers directly in person, but to fulfill online orders in a very quick and efficient manner. We're seeing a whole range of these ideas. We just saw what some startups are up to. Aldi also is sort of leading a new model of grocery stores by opening shop-in-shops inside Kohl's. Those should come out soon. And Amazon is even envisioning fully automated, not just warehouses, but then connecting that fully automated order preparation with drone delivery. So here one of their patent filings looks at almost a beehive type structure that would go in urban areas, so close to many people's homes, and robots could pack up grocery orders and then hand them off to drones for instant delivery. We could potentially see some of these small automated warehouses replacing grocery stores in the future. So in the face of all this innovation, let's move to the food products themselves and talk about the impact of startups and how traditional food leaders are responding to the growing threat of startups. Startups' impact absolutely cannot be ignored. We've already seen some startups very clearly capture market share from traditional industry leaders, including Chobani, which became America's top-selling yogurt brand in 2016, and Halo Top, which became the top-selling pint of ice cream in the U.S. in 2017. And it's not just Chobani and Halo Top. We see hundreds of food and beverage startups popping up, as we can see sort of a quick overview of some ones to note on the left. And then on the right, we can see that new smaller food startups continue to form. And the formation of new startups hit a new high in 2017. And investors are backing these early stage startups. The competitors to traditional brands will continue to multiply. And at the same time, food corporations are also multiplying their responses to these startups in the forms of startup venture funds and accelerator programs. So since 2015, we've seen a domino effect of major food leaders like Campbell's, Tyson, Land O'Lakes, Kellogg's launch their own investment vehicles to help them connect with startups and access some of that innovation and potentially hope to prevent themselves from being disrupted by these startups in the future. But this is certainly not an easy answer. As more of these corporations become investors and start backing startups as well as acquiring startups, that's also drawing in a huge range of other new investors that see more opportunities in the space. Everything from traditional venture capital funds that never backed food and beverage brands before but now are beginning to the rise of new venture capital funds that have sprung up just to focus on the food and beverage space. So it's getting more and more competitive to form relationships with the highest momentum startups. And to remedy this, some food brands are trying to leapfrog the venture capital, the sort of Series A to Series D venture capital stage and focus on very early stage startups that might be flying under the radar of some other VC firms. So just very recently, major companies like Tyson and Nestle partnered with startup accelerator programs to help them access some of these growing startups at the very early stages, make it easier if these startups do turn into substantial businesses, make it easier for Tyson, Nestle, etc. to stay connected with them, and potentially acquire them down the line. One of the biggest trends we see driving startups is substitutes for meat, ranging from plant protein, alternative proteins, to lab-grown meat. One of the strongest ways to identify a threat is to see when people start complaining about it. And actually, we're already seeing this in terms of plant proteins and lab-grown meat. Just a few weeks ago, the U.S. Cattlemen's Association, which focuses on meat production, of course, filed a petition to the U.S. government to exclude plant-based and lab-grown products from the definition of meat. So we can tell that some of these products are gaining such traction in the market that traditional meat producers are beginning to feel threatened, trying to call in the refs, the watchdogs, to protect their incumbency. So what is this threat? We even see the CEO of Tyson Foods, one of the biggest meat producers, commenting that plant protein may be growing even faster than animal protein, that the whole meat industry is shifting away from animals and towards plants. Not everyone feels so directly threatened. Some food incumbents are looking to harness this new trend. General Mills, for example, has focused purely on plant protein startups with its recently launched venture fund 301 Inc. They've backed startups, for example, like Tio Gazpacho, which sells bottled vegetable-based soups, or Rhythm Superfoods, which sells kale snacks, and most recently, Urban Remedy, which picks up on the direct-to-consumer model we discussed earlier, but also focuses on organic and plant-based meals. Even some of the meat leaders are trying to harness this trend as well, rather than taking the route of the U.S. Cattlemen's Association. Cargill, for example, has made some pretty interesting bets in terms of actually investing in a lab-grown meat startup, Memphis Meats. So this startup is growing actual meat molecules in the lab. We've written more about this on the CB Insights blog if you're interested in learning more. Cargill also recently invested in a plant protein producer called Purus. And Cargill has said that its money will help Purus expand internationally. So you can see Cargill kind of hedging its bets here beyond just meat. Tyson Foods is acting similarly. Tyson, another huge meat producer, which has backed, again, Memphis Meats, the lab-grown meat startup, as well as Beyond Meat, which is a plant-based meat substitute startup that's already sold in Kroger, Walmart, and other major grocery chains throughout America. So we'll dive a little more deeply into some of these lab-cultured meat startups, and I think lab-cultured meat may be closer than a lot of us may be aware, though of course it hasn't hit the market yet. Memphis Meats, as I mentioned, is using a biotechnology process to actually grow real meat cells in the laboratory to create meat without the animal. Its pricing is relatively inaccessible so far. Most recently, it released a pound of lab-grown chicken for $9,000 per pound, but this is already a major reduction from its previous launch, which was $18,000 per pound. So if prices continue to fall at this rate, we may see lab-grown meat hitting grocery shelves not too far out. We also see startups concentrating on seafood. Finless Foods, for example, is working on growing bluefin tuna meat in the lab. It says, according to Finless Foods, producing fish in the lab requires less energy than producing meat. And Finless Foods aims to release its first product in 2019. Definitely a trend to watch. Beyond plant protein as a substitute for meat, we also see startups looking to plants and biotechnology processes to create healthier sweeteners. We've seen a range of food corporations experiment with these low-calorie sweeteners just in the past year, including Nestle, Pepsi, Unilever recently released a new line of gelatos that aims somewhat to compete with a startup Halo Top, and for its sweetener uses monk fruit, which is a type of fruit that offers a healthier plant-based sweetener than sugar. So again, some startups are helping out corporates here. For example, Mycotechnology, which uses mushroom proteins to block the bitterness in certain foods to make them taste sweeter without adding extra calories. So Mycotechnology serves companies making snacks, alcohols, things with bitter aftertaste. And a few months ago, Kellogg's invested in Mycotechnology, so we may see a future cooperation there. We also see startups like Duke Matok and Israel creating a sort of next generation sugar that it says is better suited to target human taste buds to make foods taste sweeter while being able to reduce the sugar content. So as these biotechnology processes continue to develop, we may see more of these healthier sugar replacements hit major mainstream food products in the future. Along with all this focus on plant proteins and healthier sweeteners, food safety and label transparency is just a bigger and bigger priority for more consumers and also food brands. And we see new technologies helping out food companies here. Campbell's Soup, through its investment fund Acre Venture Partners, has been pretty active in the food safety and supply chain transparency space. They've backed, for example, Impact Vision, which uses AI to monitor food quality throughout the supply chain process. This strategy is in contrast to what we saw before with General Mills focused on plant products. Campbell's Soup is focused more behind the scenes on food safety and transparency. The other startups to watch in this space include Label Insights, which has a massive database of ingredients and helps brands automatically scan their product labels to analyze the nutritional content of their food products and make that information transparent to consumers. Label Insights also works with the FDA, as well as a range of food brands and grocery stores. We may see more integration of these sort of interactive food labels in the future. And even further, startups like Apeel are actually using biotechnology to help make the food supply chain a bit safer. Apeel, based in California, uses plant byproducts to create invisible, tasteless coatings for fresh fruits and vegetables, which help that food last longer on the shelf and also maintain more of its nutritional content for longer. So Apeel aims to cater to farmers who can ship their foods farther because they're less likely, because they take longer to spoil, and also to grocery chains, which can reduce food waste since they'll have less spoilage, and also just present better fruit and vegetable products to grocery shoppers. To help food brands and grocers trace those food products throughout the whole supply chain, which may span several countries, different warehouses, different farms, blockchain can help. Some are looking to blockchain to help already, since blockchain offers a standard, consistent ledger. Some food brands are working with IBM as well as other technology companies to tag their food products and record every step in the supply chain process on the blockchain. So whereas now, if something is wrong with a food product or a shipment is contaminated, now food brands often have to dig through emails, Excel spreadsheets, even paper records to find out where that contamination came from. With blockchain, the idea is that they could just plug in each package's unique ID number to the blockchain platform and find out immediately where that food actually came from. Companies like Walmart and Nestle have already entered into a consortium with IBM to start using blockchain to track their food products. And blockchain being as buzzy as it is, this is absolutely another trend to watch in 2018. Thank you for listening in today. Again, these slides will be sent to all participants afterwards. You can also download a more in-depth text version of this report just by looking up CB Insights Food Trends 2018. You'll find a PDF available to download. Please keep up with CB Insights, and I also send out a weekly CPG newsletter, which you can find by looking up CB Insights CPG newsletter. Looking forward to hearing from everyone. Thank you. All right, I see we have a few questions coming in. I'll take a couple questions now and then try to respond to the rest over email. We have one question about the size of the vegan and vegetarian grocery market, how big it is, what makes it successful. So I did point out the growth in alternative proteins earlier in this presentation. We're clearly seeing a lot of activity in plant-based meat substitutes. Looking further out, lab-grown meat we may see in the future. So a lot of startups and investors are very excited, and the goal for them in their meat substitute businesses is not just to remain limited to the vegan and vegetarian market, but to cater to meat eaters. The CEO, for example, of Impossible Foods, which makes a plant-based burger substitute, has said repeatedly and specifically that he would consider it a failure if he only ends up serving vegetarians. He hopes to convert real meat eaters since this plant-based product is better for the environment and also in a lot of ways better for personal health. In terms of the grocery market, I'd say that it does help stores and new e-commerce startups to have a focus area. This is one way that companies can compete with Amazon, which is the everything store, and companies like Walmart, which are so huge. But to build trust and to remain fenced in to a certain kind of niche so people know what they're getting on your site can be one way to attract shoppers to your site versus other sites and to make them feel a bit more loyal. So I imagine we'll see more, we may see more of this kind of niche focused grocery stores and e-commerce websites. These may be some of the ones that are more able to compete longer term. All right, we have a question about blockchain, explaining a bit more about blockchain and food supply chains. So I will say I'm not a deep expert on blockchain, but I can get into a little bit. You can also look up our blockchain explainer on CB Insights, which is very helpful. But so for food supply chains, the way it would work is that food producers would tag food shipments with a unique ID number, which would then be, and the shipment would be identified by a QR code or a connected IoT tag or something like that. And then at every step in the supply chain process, that package, that shipment would be scanned or otherwise recorded with its unique ID number onto the blockchain platform, which is the standardized shared ledger. People couldn't kind of change it or induce fraud into the ledger specifically. There is, of course, the risk still for human error if someone doesn't scan a certain product at a certain step or is motivated for whatever reason to avoid scanning certain products. But for brands do seem to have found it successful so far. Walmart has expanded its pilot program of using blockchain with IBM, and Walmart has also commented that before it might have taken them days or even weeks to trace the origin of a certain food product, which can be very dangerous. You know, if someone gets sick from eating a package of spinach, for example, in a grocery store, the food brand selling that spinach might not know which farm it came from, which warehouse it was stored in, so how to trace back the source of that contamination. They might have to go through Excel spreadsheets, paper records, pick up the phone and call some people. But Walmart said with blockchain, they've reduced that time to mere seconds just by entering the unique ID number of the product into the platform and immediately seeing the blockchain-based ledger of its origination. So we'll likely see more big companies experimenting with blockchain throughout 2018. I'll take one more question now. We have a question about grocery delivery partnerships like Instacart. I think in the short term, some of these delivery startups are going to do very well, and we've already seen a shakeout in the market as grocery chains that are kind of looking to shore up their own defenses against Amazon are doing that in part by acquiring their own delivery startups. So Target, for example, spent $550 million to acquire Shipt. Grocery chain H-E-B acquired a delivery startup recently. Walmart acquired a delivery startup. So we're seeing this across the board. But over the long term, I think, as I touched on in the presentation, we'll probably see more of these delivery-only grocery stores. So we may see some existing grocery store real estate being repurposed to just be kind of fulfillment centers for online orders to support same-day or one-hour delivery. And more of that delivery might be automated, looking even farther out as we see the rise perhaps of drones and self-driving cars, things like that. The delivery landscape could look very different than it does today. So again, the short-term delivery startups might be doing very well. I know Instacart has been doing very well since Amazon acquired Whole Foods, as people again look to partner with it to defend themselves. But over the much longer term, these delivery startups will have to adapt as well. So that's all I'll take for now. Again, please feel free to send further questions by email and subscribe to my newsletter, CPG Insights. Thank you.